We start in the United States, where family, friends and civil rights activists have said goodbye to Tyre Nichols. The 29-year-old black man died from his injuries after being beaten by police in the city of Memphis. Mourners were joined by US Vice President Kamala Harris, who echoed calls for police reform.
You are my strength.
After days of protests over his death, mourners gathered to celebrate Tyre Nichols' life. His friends, family and civil rights activists attending Mr Nichols' funeral on the first day of Black History Month. Remembering a father, son, brother, a skateboarder and photographer.
Tyre was a beautiful person, and for this to happen to him is just unimaginable.
These flowers now lie in memory of Tyre Nichols at the skate park he used to visit. Mr Nichols died 3 weeks ago after being brutally beaten by Memphis police officers who pulled him over while he was driving home. 5 officers have since been arrested and charged with murder. In his eulogy, civil rights leader Reverend Al Sharpton condemned their actions.
There's nothing more insulting and offensive to those of us that fight to open doors, that you walk through those doors and act like the folks we had to fight for to get you through them doors.
US Vice President Kamala Harris also paid tribute to Mr Nichols, saying the country mourned with his family.
This is a family that lost their son and their brother through an act of violence at the hands and the feet of people who had been charged with keeping them safe. And as Vice President of the United States, we demand that Congress pass the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. Joe Biden will sign it.
Tyre Nichols' family are also calling for the act to be brought in, which would require a database for police officer misconduct and a ban on no-knock warrants. Those calls for change now getting louder in the hope that more lives won't be lost.
So is Congress likely to pass the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act? Here's our Washington correspondent, Stephen Siemens.
Oh, that's a tough question. If you would have asked me 3 years ago after we covered the untimely and horrible death of George Floyd, if this is going to happen, if the George Floyd Police and Justice Act will go through Congress, I would have said yes. No doubt, it'll go through. And guess what? It didn't. It crashed and burned in the Senate. Now, the Senate is in Democrats' hands, but the House is in Republicans' hands. And I'm not so sure if it will really happen. I think millions of Americans are hopeful. Many politicians on both sides are hopeful it will, because that's what not only Kamala Harris, but also Al Sharpton and everybody there and everybody in the community, Black Lives Matter community, and those families who lost their daughters, brothers, sisters, husbands, fathers, mothers, hoping for real change. And Al Sharpton said in his eulogy, which was really strong, that he and many, many, many others will not stop fighting for the George Floyd Policing and Justice Act going through Congress. Real reform, structural reform, accountability for police, and then the prevention of something happening, what we just witnessed on video for the world to see, to Tyre Nichols.